Wednesday, November 30th, 2022. The first item on the agenda is open forum, and I'd like to open by welcoming Noel Almeida, our new member of the Conservation Commission.
Thank you. Thank you all, and especially thank you to Matt for spending a good hour today with me, walking through the finer details of the agenda and all the items there. So, thank you.
Members of the commission, Jim?
Last night, the Board of Selectmen had a meeting that was attended by the dog park committee. And the dog park folks had proposed a site down near Jack Walsh Field, approximately where the new fire station was being considered at one point. And they were proposing that be made into a dog park with a parking lot. It was strongly opposed by all the neighbors in the area, and no decision was made. But during the discussions, there were several points where people brought up the Stony Brook Conservation Land as a possible dog park. I think that would be contrary to the conservation restriction with signage and would be a problem, and so would fencing, and so would the concentration of waste products and that kind of stuff. So just to let you guys know that we may be contacted. I don't know how it's going to go. Scott Hazelton is going to work with them to try to come up with some other alternative locations, but the conservation land was mentioned a few times.
It's kind of custody of the CONSCOM, and it's not a use that's...
Right, we'll see. If it I don't know if it'll come up or not. I don't know, but that was discussed, so. That's it.
Okay. Any other members have anything? Matt?
My only comment is with Marilyn participating via phone tonight, all votes will be done by roll call.
Do any members of the audience have items for open forum? Oh. Okay. Since we're not, okay, so then let's move to our other 7 p.m. agenda item, the Stony Brook Conservation Area, a request by Eagle Scout candidate Curran to install fishing signs. Good evening.
Good evening. Yes, I prepared a little slideshow. We can just give it a cursory overview. There's a lot in there. Just off the bat, that photo in the middle there is kind of the gist of what I'm hoping to put at the Burgess Pond area. And what I'm hoping to do is basically put 2 signs around the pond that are going to provide information about the species of fish that can be found there inside Burgess Pond. Yeah, that's the tentative idea for the sign. So those are 2 possible locations. Again, everything is up for change, but those are 2 spots. I figured there's already some buildings there at those 2 locations. I think at the first spot in the east part of Burgess Pond, there's a bench there, and along with the spot in the middle there.
I recommended, just having some other alternative areas away from the beach. Just, it's just
And the docks.
conflict of uses,
Yeah.
And so, Connor, in kind of my initial review, kind of had these other couple. Is there anything else you want to kind of go through? I mean,
Yeah.
provide a project timeline as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, I just want to touch on who I'm hoping to benefit with this. At the end of the day, that's what an eco project is benefiting. And I kind of had a twofold hope in terms of people to benefit. First one was kind of just people of Westford in general, by expanding their knowledge on the wildlife around them. I think it's common knowledge. Everyone knows, there's bear, deer, raccoon, all that. But what it isn't as common in terms of knowledge is, the fish. And I feel like in Westford, we're really lucky because Burgess, Stony Brook, all that, the fish in those places are really interesting because they're kind of a testament to the success of conservation. In the Stony Brook, what's really interesting is it's actually one of the only streams in the area surrounding towns that has a wild trout population. And I feel like, if people don't know about that, it's going to be harder for, people to really vouch and defend conservation.
I would be more inclined to go along with what you had proposed as your alternate sites for a
Yeah.
couple of reasons. One, it'll reduce conflicts with swimmers, although there's nothing wrong with fishing at those beach areas. Fishing and swimming at the same time doesn't necessarily go along real well, and lost hooks and lures in the water in a fishing beach, in a swimming beach, can also cause problems later on. But the other alternate places you showed right here are good ones, because both, there's trails that go to it, there's multiple access points to the pond, and there's a structure, underwater structure that the fish love, so.
Yeah, I did a walk back in October, and I have to agree. I'm more inclined to go towards the alternative locations, just because I do agree fishing hooks, swimmers, not a good idea, and yeah, those alternative locations.
They're good spots, and there's multiple
That's
fishing
right,
locations
yeah.
in those
And you know,
areas.
it's ample space, so it's
Yeah.
Will you have anything on the signs about having a fishing license in order to fish there?
yeah. So that's another thing I was thinking about in terms of the sign. Again, the whole the layout and all the content on there is tentative, but I definitely think it could be a good thing to add a little bit of like regulatory things, like saying, you know, you can't take this species out, this is endangered species, etc. But I do think I'll put a little bit on there about possibly like the Mass Wildlife, you know, their rules on having a license and all the stuff to make, you know, the fishing sustainable.
Could you maybe also include the size and limit for each kind of fish?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's possible. Like, up there on the sign, like, I think, you know, a ruler, and then, you know, just under the fish and saying, like, this is the legal size, this is the slot size, etc. would be a possibility.
And also maybe no lead that's less than an ounce.
That's right, yeah, that's the rule.
And any monofilament that has to leave with you, any grain has to go with you.
Yeah. I definitely do think it was a good idea. But, yeah, I'm definitely really open to that, because at the end of the day, for every 9 good fishermen who are, you know, conservation minded, there's always that one bad apple who ends up leaving trash. And, you know, many times when I go fishing, I always try and bring out more trash than just my trash, but I definitely think that having that on the sign there could help other people to kind of get that mindset of, you know, bring out more trash than you produce.
Also, one more question. How did the fish get into Burgess Pond? There's no inlet, no.
So yeah, I mean, this is really interesting. So there's a lot of ways. I think the main way is birds. You know, birds can either eat the fish eggs and then the fish eggs come out in the pond, or sometimes the fish eggs stick to legs. Or, I mean, I'm not sure the age of Burgess Pond or how it was formed, but I definitely think it's possible that maybe at some point in time there was a stream there. But you know, there's a lot of ways, and it's really interesting to look at the history of just Burgess and the surrounding area.
Any comments or questions from members of the audience on this proposal? Okay. Do we need a motion?
I think motion to approve the locations and with the final fishing design, you know, when you're further along and closer to implementation, you know.
Since this is a conservation land under a conservation restriction, you probably one more step, I didn't see it in your.
Oh, I had that thought. I had that thought today. I'll reach out to the Westford Land Preservation Foundation.
Because I think, or the Scout Current Good.
We're, right, I mean, or
It's
get
under,
the
it's under a
contact information.
conservation restriction that's held by the Westford Land Preservation Foundation. And there's very strict limits in what can and can't be done on the property. And if it's not specifically either authorized or forbidden, you gotta go through and ask the Westford Land Preservation Foundation. Explain what you're doing, the same thing you did with us, the same sort of presentation. And that way they know, and they can give you the yes or no.
Can I just make
I do think there is a provision for educational signage,
Yep.
but, you know, it is a good process to make sure we get their consent as well, as CR.
So can I have a motion to approve the project using
The alternative
signs and
locations.
the alternate locations?
So, second?
All those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes,
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. So,
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
moving on to our 7:05 PM agenda item. This is a public hearing for Yankowas. Yank?
Yankowskis?
Yankowskis? Okay.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 30th, 2022, at 7:05 p.m. in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application of James Yanowskis for the removal of 2 existing decks and replacement in the same locations with a deck and a 3-season porch within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands at 4 Sherwood Drive.
Good evening.
Could you state your name for the record and brief overview of the project?
Sure. Carl Nevigins, I'll be the general contractor on the project. Revisions Construction.
James Yankowski.
You give us an overview.
A
of
real
the-
brief overview of what?
Sure. Yep, we're doing some multiple work there. We've done some siding and roofing, which were approved. There's about a 8-foot by 30-foot deck on the back of the home, which is between the house and the pool, built-in pool area. Looks, structurally, it's not the greatest. You can see a, pretty good sized bow in it. It seems to be pulling away from the house as well. Not really sure of the footings, how well they're done until we, obviously demo it. But, so we just basically want to rebuild the deck in the same footprint. And once the deck is built, put a screen porch, not on the entire deck, but probably on a third of that.
So it's going to be back on sonotube or whatever the footings are?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna dig new sonotubes. Yep. And then, let's see. Yeah, you can see in the inside corner of the layout of the house, that would be where the, okay, great. Let's see. So that's the deck we just spoke of there. Of course, that's a built-in pool there. The wetlands are in this area. We had paced them off according to a map that was done for septic. So definitely within the, it's the 80-foot limit.
100-foot buffer.
100-foot, yep. Definitely within that. And then over here, we have a landing with a staircase that, there's egress there, the door. So we were going to replace that area in the same footprint as well. Sonotubes.
Members of the commission have any questions? Jim?
No heavy equipment, it's all hand digging if you need the sonotubes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and a mixer, we use a mixer on, the electric mixer.
What's the soil contour like? Is it relatively flat to the wetlands or is it steep? I'm just thinking about whether there's any need for.
Pretty flat to the wetlands.
Need for.
Erosion
silt-
control, I don't think so. I mean, it is fairly flat, it's lawned, and again, it's,
hand digging.
disturbed in, it's existing disturbed area, where the two, the
Two
3-season
locations,
rooms and
right.
the 2 locations. One question I did, if there's no other comments from the commission,
I had a question about the shed. Is the shed still there?
Yes, we did not demo that yet.
Okay, it's not
Because
in
I think you
this-
wanted all of us hold off on that.
Yeah. It's it's shown, so here it is shown on the proposed plot plan, and then also it's shown here, these are the wetland flags and so the shed is within the wetland resource. I know that was being proposed to remove, and you were proposing, hand removal, no, just
Correct.
haul it out.
And removal in wheelbarrows and then taken to a trailer.
Okay.
The only comment or concern that I had is that the certified plot plan does not show the presence of wetlands on the site, and we've had problems in the past where a future homeowner comes up, looks at this plan, doesn't realize that there are wetlands that they need to take into account, so.
I mean, it is on the as-built septic plan.
It is.
Would that be part of the filing?
Yeah, I mean, that's been included in this, and it
Okay.
is available on the town's document management system, which was how, originally this came to me as a building permit, and, that was my, in looking at the town's GIS and, available documentation, that's where I kind of came across this filing. It was a order of conditions, I think it's 1621 or thereabouts. So that's where So there is an order.
So there's a paper trail for a future owner.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is already.
So you had something?
Oh, I was just, is there gonna be any gutters on the kind of covered three-season room, or is it just expected to be?
I'm sorry, on the screen, the new screen porch?
Yes.
I hadn't really thought about that, to be honest with you.
Not sure it's necessary.
Yeah, because that falls onto the patio of the, hadn't really thought about that, to be honest with you. Were the rest of the house is guttered? Since that'll be a new structure, probably, just so it doesn't fall on the concrete. So, yeah, I would imagine that would be.
Yeah, yeah, and if, you know, the commission is amenable, I'd include that, you know, just the new, covered screened porch, you know,
Being
we
good.
have gutters, you know, consistent with the house.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any comments or questions from members of the audience? So, no further questions. Can I have a motion for a conditional negative determination of applicability?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Okay, so, you'll get the paperwork to them?
Yep, I'll be in touch tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have something to sign? Okay. Moving on to our 7:10 PM agenda item. It's the Friends of Forge Pond Order of Conditions Extension Request
3 years.
for 3 years. Good evening. For the record, you are?
Hi, I'm Dave Barr, and this is Mike Broderick. We're on the board of directors for Friends of Forge Pond.
Okay.
And in 2018, we got approval to do drawdowns on the lake on Forge Pond. This is something that has been going on for nearly a century as a means of trying to control the invasive plants growing in the lake. And it was a 3-year approval. Because of COVID, there was another 450 days or something like that, that it was extended. So we did drawdowns in 2018, 2019, 2020, and then with the extension 2021, and we just started one last month. But the approval, extended approval, I mean the COVID extended approval expires in January, February. We have orders and conditions from Westford and Littleton, and they're about 10 days apart. So we are here to request an extension of the orders of conditions to be able to continue to do the drawdowns.
Any questions from members of the commission?
I just had one thing. It's just semantics really, but throughout the whole thing, it's Forge Pond, but then it's referred to as a lake. And I feel like there should be some sort of consistency with.
The official name is Forge Pond, but there's one known as Lake Manawanaki also. That's an old name, but I think its official name is Forge Pond.
Right. I don't know.
It's a great pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, is the name in Littleton actually like?
They refer to it as Lake Manawanaki, yes. And actually, the original name for the lake was Matawanaki Lake before it was called Forge Pond when the forge went in at the dam. It's a great pond. Great ponds are lakes too.
On the state's Great Pond list, it is listed as Forge Pond / Lake Matawanaki,
Okay.
so.
It's got a split personality.
Pick your poison.
I don't have any.
Yeah, really.
That's all I got.
Okay.
I would One of the special conditions, based upon the natural heritage review back in 2018, they had four kind of special four conditions which were included into the order of conditions. It's special condition 22. The latter two were kind of the most important at this time. And it's to contact the division for a written response regarding impacts to resource area habitat of state-listed wildlife prior to the issuance of renewal, extension, or amendment to the order of conditions. And the division's authorization is valid for 5 years. So I've recently heard back from the Natural Heritage Program and one of their senior review biologists with some direction. So I think in the upcoming days, they'll be submitting that Massachusetts Endangered Species Act review, just again to have an updated letter from Natural Heritage, and so I would request the commission not act on that until we have the information from Natural Heritage. Again, as Dave mentioned, the Westford Order of Conditions doesn't expire with the COVID-19 permit tolling until the beginning of February, so I was quite happy that I encouraged him to file early and often, and and so I wanted to, with them coming in before the commission for the other things, I wanted to get, make the best use of the time, but also kind of put it on the commission's radar, and upon getting the determination letter from the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife staff,
We can take a motion at the next meeting.
Right, yeah, or whenever, upon receipt of that,
Okay.
And it's not a public hearing, so we don't need to continue it, but it was, best use of everybody's time.
Yeah, we just got a response today, so we'll work this week to get the request to them.
Typically take 30 days, so, this may be a
January.
beginning of the new year type item that will be brought up at that point.
Are there any comments or questions from members of the audience? So I guess
Just put it on hold.
put it on hold until we get the.
Yeah, till we got,
Objections or anything, we just have to wait for the state.
Yes, we have to
Okay.
wait for the letter. Okay.
All right, thank you.
So moving on to our next agenda item, it's Friends of Forge Pond and the Westford Healthy Lakes and Ponds Collaborative certificate of compliance request for the project at the outlet channel.
Yeah, so, last year, we got, approval for a project that has been in the works, also since 2018. It was to, open up the outlet channel a bit, to, allow better flow during drawdowns, to help the drawdowns be more consistent and hopefully a little more effective, be able to get them down a bit lower. The work was funded by Littleton Clean Lakes Committee and Westford Community Preservation Committee. And it was sponsored by Healthy Lakes and Ponds and us. So that work was completed last February, and we were asked to wait a bit to make sure that the site was properly restored and looked good over the summer and that sort of thing. So our intent was to come in and ask to have certificate of compliance granted. We were over there yesterday working the channel, at the channel, measuring the lake height. There are some transducers that are on a network of monitoring that we normally use to monitor the lake height and such, but they kind of move around, and so they're not so reliable. And we were measuring to see really what is it right now. And when we were there, we were pleased to see that over the area where the work was done, it was flowing very well. Last year, when we did the work, the water was about 1.5 feet higher. So this is, we're seeing more than we did then. But we did see that at the downstream end of where the work was done, the channel is quite shallow. It's not clear to me whether that was actually excavated out, and over the summer, silt has gotten deposited in that last section where the dredged area ends, or if they didn't go that far. And then there's a little small section right near the outlet, which is not nearly as shallow, but beyond also where they excavated. We were out with Matt yesterday looking at it too, so we thought we would ask whether, in the spirit of the same kind of changes that were done with the excavation before, whether it might be possible for a few of us to go in and just manually create a narrow channel through that last 20 or 30 feet to open up and lower the level to the, not even the same level as we excavated before, but maybe a foot deeper than it is there now. It currently there, the water is less than a foot deep. The remaining distance we've got to our drawdown target right now is about 8 inches. We wouldn't probably be able to get down much lower than we are now with that section in place.
So pretty stable for a week or so, not getting much lower at this point.
Yeah, it was dropping slowly, and
then.
for the last week or so, it's been pretty steady at that level.
How much was it able to be brought down? Just aiming for up to 3.6 feet max, right?
Yeah, so we're down to about, we're down about 3 feet. So that would be another
About
2/3 of a foot, another 8 inches or so to the target depth. So it occurred to us while we were out there, since we hadn't, seen it this low before with the channel changes that were made, and since it hadn't been closed, whether it might be possible to, and the other thought that I had about that was, the contractor, when he came to do it, he said, what you really, because it's not a straight channel, it still goes around the sandbar there. The original thought was to take out the sandbar and straighten the channel, but if we'd done that, it would have been over the limit of which we could just get approval from the town. It would have been a lot harder. So they said, you really probably need to do a little bit of cleaning up each year to keep it open, and which we don't have approval for, right? But that was his observation, and it would be interesting to see if we did open a little channel in that area, what would it look like next year when we got to this point? Would it still be open, or would it be silted in? And if it was, we might come back and say, is that something that might be worth doing? Just kind of manually moving some of that out of the way to maintain what was done. Anyway, that's another thought. But so that was.
So, but this is in regards to the certificate of compliance request. Are you holding off on that now? Are you? I'm trying to bring you back instead of, you're going kind of tangential from that.
So, yeah, right, so the intention was to close it out. After we looked at it yesterday, we would like to see if we could leave it open, and if we would be allowed to do what I just described.
So do additional work that may not have been foreseen when the project was originally proposed. In terms of that last little bit of channel, you can't, we're someplace where there's potential the need to improve the channels, or.
Right, it's in the same vein as what we were doing already. That's why we did it, because it was so shallow.
Okay.
It's
Even
not,
any appreciable amount of wet sand and silt by hand in a foot deep water, that's gonna be a hell of a lot of work.
we can see.
And will you have the
So
same type of?
so it's, yeah, it's about this deep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and trying to get
Yeah.
the dirt and the soil, the mud, and
Yeah.
everything from underneath that.
So we would be doing it deliberately so that we wouldn't be, we'd be causing as little disturbances possible.
Matt, here.
Yeah, that was my last part, was, in order to kind of minimize the disturbance, if it were to be done, all I could think of was, the Looney Tunes, shuffling through and just
Yeah,
flinging
yeah.
it over your shoulder. But, where the Friends of Forgemont have, exhibited great, responsibility in, both in their benthic map project and, in kind of the documentation of their, I think it is a worthwhile endeavor to, see if that, if that little bit of kind of maintenance of, and, deepening of a small.
Can we get a better descriptive of it? I mean, it was just given to us, but if it's something that we are gonna say, okay, we're gonna let you do this, I mean, typically we want a little something more.
And, I can certainly work with the Friends of Forgemont to get, kind of a more concrete
Yeah.
write-up and, for.
And plus, that way, when you go out there afterwards to take a look at it, we'll be able to tell whether or not we should be issuing a certificate or not.
So this sounds like a minor modification?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of
So
where.
we'll come back at a later meeting?
Yep, that's fine.
So,
Okay.
yeah. The thing is, we don't know, we don't really have a lot of control over what happens out there. Last year, when we got the, I don't know, second, third bid, and we thought we were doing it in December, it ended up having to be bid again, and we ended up doing it in February, and in that time, the water came up a foot and a half. So my thought is, if we're proposing to do it, say, 4 foot wide, 1 foot deep, it's about a 30-foot length, and then maybe a 10-foot section at the outlet, or right at the inlet, that's what we would be planning to do. It's a couple of cubic yards of material. If you were okay with that, and we worked with Matt to document that and some pictures and such as to what it looks like now, and if you were okay to tell him to approve that pending his, getting definitive language from us, that we could then do the work without having to wait several weeks.
Well,
while we-
our next meeting is in 2 weeks, December 14th, that if you could have the write-up, potentially we could have this review and give the approval then? Would that be a quick enough turnaround for you to be doing the work in the time frame that you want?
Well, again, it depends on what.
Depends on the-
If we get a lot of rain, then it gets another 6
Okay.
inches deep, it's gonna be a lot harder to do this.
I gotta tell you, going in and doing what they're doing, give us a little something, We're mucking around in Forge Pond, this isn't like tangential, this isn't a buffer, we're in. So let's have a little something. I mean, we're not asking for much, but, it gives you better direction.
And does this also become a prototype that if they find that it silts in, if this becomes
Right,
periodic
then at
maintenance, so
least
this is actually essentially a
Something
prototype
they're gonna
for what
wanna
that
do.
periodic maintenance might
Yeah.
look like?
Yeah, so we define that this helps every year versus a big project with.
Like a drawdown.
Yeah.
So I was proposing we would definitely have a definitive description of it and such But I think what you're saying is you'd like that before you say.
Yes, we'd like to see it and have a chance to review it, ask questions, give feedback before we say yes.
So can the work happen before December 14th? Probably not.
Correct.
I think that's what you were.
That's what we're
That's what you were
trying to
getting
find
to,
Yeah, and we're just hoping it's down low now, so this is a good time to do it. If we get a lot of rain, then we are battling for the water to come back down where we can work it again, so.
Right, we might lose the chance to do it.
Although we're still down a foot from last year, I think.
Yeah, last
Yes.
year we didn't get.
When I'm looking at the amount of rain that we've had, so we've been
Yeah,
fortunate.
we initially got down right in the end of December, but then it started raining all through December. And
But if it were a foot deeper, if it were 20 inches deep, it would probably be hard to dig it out.
yeah, we wouldn't be.
So you know what we want,
Yeah.
so let's move on to the next one.
Yep.
Got a whole bunch of things going on tonight.
Okay. So moving on to our 7:15 PM agenda item, Friends of Forge Pond, discussion of the Thick Mat pilot project. And you gave us some great information, you know, we saw the tables with the graphs of everything.
Very
that people
extensive.
did.
Very
Yes,
thorough.
very thorough.
Yeah, so we had 3 sites in Westford, 4 sites in Littleton, 3 different kinds of mats. And people found that it worked well. It was not no work, but it was pretty reasonable, you know, not much more work than putting the dock out in most cases. So we, tried to get monthly updates from everybody. Give you a summary and some lessons learned related with lessons learned. So yeah, we'd like to do it again. One thing that we in the lessons learned, one of the main things that most of the participants were looking for was, they said that something larger than 600 square feet would be more useful for the kind of to be useful for swimming, boating, access. So we're wondering if there would be a larger amount that the committee would, the commission would approve, which wouldn't require us to go through the whole process of notifications and that sort of thing. We did give a reference of 2,000 square feet, which if we all did it would be less than 1/6% of the lake area. And for if eventually we had some kind of process where more people could sign up to do it if they were interested. If a quarter of the people on the lake were doing it, it would still be less than 2/3% of the lake area.
No, with the size that was specified in the filing.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think and this was something, I discussed with Dave, and also to gain better understanding from the commission, whether, was it 600 square feet total or per, 600 square feet total per waterfront property, or was it 600 square feet at any one time with, it to be allowed to be moved, 2 or 3 times during the course of the season? Just to, have some clarification for what,
So,
from the commission.
Yeah, the notice of intent posed maximum 600 square foot mat, but it also said that mats could be moved. So there were 3 sites that did move mats. One of those sites kept the total overall area to be within 600 square feet. The other 2, it was more than 600 square feet. If we did something more like 2,000, it would be allow a larger mat, but nothing would, even moving it around, it wouldn't be more than 2,000 square feet.
Oh, the larger ones, if you did a larger mat, you wouldn't move them, you just place them once?
Well,
Limit to how big of a mat you can actually manage. When it gets too big, it's really unwieldy, so.
yeah, I mean, some people might put down more than 1 mat and cover 2,000 square feet all at once.
Right.
Some people might have just 1 mat, and 2,000 square feet is probably a bigger mat than is.
But if we increase the total benthic map area to 2,000 square foot
Right.
per
Site.
pilot program site,
Yeah.
they wouldn't move them then. It would stay in that 2,000 square feet by their dock or by their beach or whatever.
We wouldn't be covering more than 2,000 square feet over the whole summer at that site.
Oh, okay.
Some people, you theoretically could cover the whole thing with 2,000 at once. You probably might do it with more than one mat, like one near where your boats come in and out and one where you're
Yeah,
swimming.
I mean, the movable mat, like I have it, it's 10 by 40, so it's only 400 square feet. That's, it takes a little bit of work to move.
Yeah.
You know, they don't, not only if they sell them, for 2,000 square feet. I think the one place that I got mine, the largest one they sell is 10 by 80, 800. And that'd be pretty unwieldy, because if they got rebar and
You
stuff.
take
inside.
smaller ones, lay them next to each other.
Yeah, so you can buy smaller ones,
It's the
or,
effective size.
Or you might have one over here by your dock, one over here by your beach.
yeah.
But so that way people could put down more than 600 to start with, but they wouldn't cover more than 2,000 altogether over the summer.
Sounds okay to me. I think, one other question I had, what does the commission think about the polyethylene mats versus the
Burlap.
fabric mat? The fabrics, it seemed like people were just gonna leave them, I guess.
I was just about to ask about
And you
that.
end up with a lot of, the silk
Yeah,
builds up
it
on
was
top of
just
it,
gonna
and your
rot.
plants that just grow right through it.
Yeah.
I don't think, so it's like, you're not really doing anything, you're just putting a different grow medium on the bottom.
Well, so, just to that, we had 3 people that did burlap mats,
Right.
and they found, the expectation is that they're good for like 3 or 4 years before, so like you say, they start to silt up, but over this summer, they can see 1 or 2 plants growing in that, and they can easily take them out, right? So it was doing what they wanted to, with maybe having to pick a few out. It'll be interesting to see how many seasons that goes before it isn't serving the purpose. From references we saw, it was like 3 or 4 years, but it'd be
They're
interesting
more
to see.
porous, and so you're more likely to get silk working its way through the burlap.
Yeah.
And as you saw, you
It's
already
a
have.
little rougher, so it tends to stay there and not wash away when it
And you already
does.
had plants coming through it at the end of the season.
Shake it off or anything.
Yeah, they haven't found any coming through yet. Some of them found it, kind of seeds taking.
Plants that they were pulling out of the burlap. did
They were growing on top.
Oh, and
yeah.
just going down through.
No, just kind of.
Oh, there was enough silt on top to allow it
In a
to
few places, there were enough silt for it to. yeah.
germinate on top of the.
But they were little plants. I mean, like,
So it was these-
around it, the plants were like
Yeah,
3
much
feet
more,
high, and
yeah.
here they were, yeah,
So it could be manually
taken
maintained.
off, right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but, yeah, the expectation is that over the years, it would get silted in, and it would just become part of the bottom, and it would decompose, and it would, and just like every year the plants decompose, and they become part of the bottom, and, the muck gets thicker and thicker and thicker. This is,
So do you want to grant his request or not?
Yeah.
And clarification,
So it sounds like in the details of the filing, they can do, each site can do 600 square feet. So,
And he wants to raise it to like 2,000 square feet.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we want to clear where that 600 was,
Could
could be-
2,000, which
Yeah.
could be all at
Yeah.
once, or, could be
Yes.
moved, but not to more than 2,000.
I mean, the 600 could be moved around.
Yeah.
And now they want to have a 2,000, which seems to be more of put it in place, and it's not going to get moved around as much, but I guess I'm okay with it.
I
With
would
it-
be, yeah, I'm okay with
a
that.
2,000 maximum per location.
yeah.
Okay. So,
My only concern is that if everybody starts using the burlap and that never gets replaced, then that area is just dead and nothing can.
No, like I
grow
say,
there.
over several years, it would.
Decomposes and then-
Right,
decompose,
but
and then
through
the
each
plants
season,
start
if
to.
it's not taken out, nothing can.
Yeah,
grow
I'm
in
not
that
liking
space.
things that you can take out.
Yeah,
The other ones, they
Oh,
do
yeah,
take
yeah,
out,
I
feel like those should be
Yeah.
taken out,
as
and that
opposed to
way-
leaving it in place.
Well, they intend, they did break down and decompose, and there's really not a mat there, and we can start going through, and you gotta put another one down. eventually,
Right, but
after a
the
few
point,
years.
my point is
But
that
it's
during
good.
that time, that it's just
It's
like a
effectively filled.
desert area.
Yeah.
of the pond.
Yeah.
Nothing can thrive there.
But I think, isn't that true with the, when the benthic mats are down there, that it kills all vegetation and nothing grows with
Yeah,
it?
it kills everything, and then you move it.
Right, but
Then you get
there's.
taken
But then they take it out. The other one stays in.
Stuff will start.
Yeah, you take it out and it slowly starts to grow back and, you
So
know,
it's a retardant as opposed to an eliminator?
Yeah.
well, it eliminates totally when it's there. And then when you take it out, it slowly starts to grow back, so,
So, I mean, with the pilot project, I mean, I think part of it was to evaluate the different mediums and kind of see what, you know, how effective they were. So, I mean, I think, you know, after 1 year, and again, you know, maybe in years 2 and 3, when they, you know, the mats aren't doing, the burlap isn't as effective, you know, with it. I mean, I think that's something that, you know, we will be able to.
But that's also, the burlap's in Littleton.
Right.
the burlap.
Right, I mean, but, you know, I mean, again,
Yeah.
where this was the pilot program for, you know.
It just
water
happened to
rights.
work out that way.
So are you saying let them do it another season, then we have them come back and then
Right,
say,
I think-
look at the effectiveness of the jute mat versus,
Right.
you know, the plastic, and, you know, perhaps we just say, hey, go.
So the Westford
Go.
sites are all gonna be the plastic and then be removed at the end of the season, is that it?
That's what we've
Okay.
done, yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Do we have the mechanism for increasing the?
I mean, if they're gonna be coming back with a minor modification, I'd like something, you know, we can just have a request and something on the next meeting, just to codify it and.
So the request to allow up to 2,000 square feet of benthic mats at each pilot site. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, if you give Matt that, basically a written request, we can
Right.
handle it as a minor modification.
Okay, next time also.
Yes,
Yep,
Right,
okay,
so I think that's it.
yep.
Awesome.
all right.
Well, thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much.
Appreciate everything.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for a really thorough summary of all of the different sites and everybody's experience.
It's a lot, yeah.
It was, but that was the kind of.
No, but it was
information
good.
It was good to have, yeah.
Okay, good, yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving on to our 7:20 PM agenda item, is a minor modification request at 8 Calista Terrace, to install a pavilion over the outdoor kitchen and a request for work after December 1st. So you are,
Good evening. For the record, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates.
okay,
So we're here before you for a minor modification and work after December 1st. Basically, there's a timber pavilion that's going over the outdoor kitchen. Now, interestingly enough, it was part of the original proposal, but we never, I guess there was some confusion about that, and it wasn't really discussed during the hearing. So the timber frame pavilion is this square right here, and that's the outdoor kitchen area. So the proposed improvements were a pervious patio in the backyard, a fire pit, fireplace, and then the outdoor kitchen, and then our pavilion over the top of it. The pavilion sits on 4 sonotubes. It meets all the local setbacks, the no build for structure, and the pavilion itself sheets runoff off of the roof onto the pervious patio, so the water just kind of gets absorbed by the stone underneath the pavers. The work beyond December 1st, construction is currently going on right now, and we're looking to have this wrapped up before the season closes, but we need a little bit more time to do that.
So how much more time?
That is a good question. Do you know how much more time?
Roughly 2.5 to 3 weeks total.
So you want to be able to work through December?
Yeah, we'll have all the flat work, patio, all the pervious applications in. The only extra time we're gonna need is to physically build the kitchen under the pavilion, in the later
Is it
Can we
pavilion,
end it December?
4 walls, roof, doors, windows, or is
No,
it?
it's just a
or is it
pavilion,
4
it's
posts
open.
and a canvas top?
4 posts and a canvas top, and
Okay.
we would be wrapping the outside with heated blankets to be able to work inside.
Temporary.
Oh,
Temporary.
Yeah. It's not permanent. It's just a cover.
are there any, in terms of concerns about erosion or whatever, are there any other?
No.
No, okay.
They want the.
Do you have any comments or questions from members of the audience? So let's take this as two things, the minor modification request. To roof pavilion.
Sounds good to me. I move that we approve the minor modification to add it.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Okay, so that's that. Request to work after December 1st. Can I have a motion?
I make a motion, we allow them to work till the end of December.
Okay. Can I have a second? Okay. All those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our 7:35 PM agenda item. Got a lot of other requests to work after December 1st. Okay, so first,
Is the-
KMR real estate.
No, what about the public hearing
I'm
for
sorry, you're
73
right.
Brookside?
7:25 PM agenda item, the public hearing to appeal at 73 Brookside.
Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 30th, 2022, at 7:25 p.m. in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the notice of intent application of Megan McKeel for raising of an existing structure, construction of a new building, removal of portions of pavement, reconfiguration of the parking lot, stormwater management improvements, and associated landscaping, utilities, and site work within 100 feet of bordering vegetative wetlands and Gilson Brook at 73 Brookside Road.
Good evening for the record.
Good evening, I'm Mike Toohill from Conoco Engineers and Scientists.
And I have Farouk Youssef, I am the architect who's helping him with the planning.
Okay.
This was an existing Will's Restaurant at 73 Brookside Road that had a fire a couple of years ago, 2019. And the applicant proposes to rebuild the restaurant on the same site in approximately the same footprint. They're going to make the building a little bit bigger. Overall, the impervious surfaces are going to decrease on the site. It's going to decrease by about 1,800 square feet. There is 300 square feet of area where new impervious surface is proposed where it wasn't impervious before. There's an existing septic system. Utilities are existing, but obviously they'll have to do some relocation of some of the utilities on the site. The site is next to, yeah, it's a good one, Matt. The site is next to Gilson Brook, so it's within the 200-foot riverfront area of Gilson Brook. It's within the 100-foot buffer zone for bank, and quite a bit of the site as well. So this is a redevelopment project under 1058-5, so it does not require alternatives analysis because it's a redevelopment of an existing, previously developed riverfront area of the site. So as the notice that was read explains, the proposal is to rebuild the building. This plan that's up on the board right now is both existing and proposed conditions. Little hard to tell some of the differences here. I'll see what I can do for you. So here's the existing building right here on the inside of the box.
Yeah.
The proposal is to go to the outside of the box, make the building a little bit bigger. This area over here is a proposed detention infiltration area. Obviously, this is Gilson Brook. This is the railroad easement. This parcel line is the Fletcher property over here. And apparently Gilson Brook used to flow along the property line like this and was straightened out for some reason years and years ago, maybe for the railroad, we're not sure. So we have this little out parcel, if you will, that's actually not part of this project site. So the plan in front of you, we're before ZBA, and also next week we're going to be before the planning board. And there are some plan changes underway, especially this plan showed that this area was going to be a restoration area, and it's not on the site, so we can't touch that area. So we're going to move some of the erosion controls and everything to go around this little corner and not have that be part of the project. The existing septic system's back here, that remains. It was oversized for its current use. It's oversized for its proposed use. There are going to be, right now it's proposed to have 21 parking spaces. including handicap spaces on the site. That is obviously subject to the planning board taking a look at. That may decrease, may not, but right now it's 21 spaces. So that's kind of the long and the short of the project. This is Pleasant Street right here, the railroad tracks, Gilson Brook running down this way towards Stony Brook, which is further downstream.
I think we probably all know what Willows is.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
I remember walking that railroad line.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Matt?
If the representative would be able to just give a brief high-level overview of kind of the criteria being satisfied in 10.585, just for the commission's consideration, you know, the actual, again.
The performance standards?
Exactly.
Okay, I don't have them all right up here, but I'll try to go through them for you. Okay. There was a section in the NOI.
Right, I just, you know, wanted for the
performance
record.
standards. Sure, no problem. Way down low in the narrative. Lori is nothing else if not thorough. Okay, so in general, in redevelopment, it says that you need to make the conditions, if possible, you need to make the conditions better but no worse than existing. And a lot of that has to do with the impervious surfaces and the distances to the riverfront area. And we conform with those standards. We're gonna have less pavement, more, it just says more impervious, it actually should say more pervious area. We're gonna have more pervious area on the site. We're restoring existing paved riverfront area with topsoil native seed mix, so we're taking riverfront area that is previously paved, we're putting that back into a vegetative cover. We're gonna infiltrate the roof runoff, stormwater controls, such as the P-stone area that was shown on the previous plan, which goes around the site, infiltration trench is gonna be added to control stormwater. The site actually, from the site to the railroad, to the river, it slopes up to the railroad bed and then back down to the river. So there's that protective berm, if you will, that the railroad track is along there that's actually higher than the site. Previously developed degraded areas prior to August 7, 1996. This has to do with, you know, you need to make improvements over existing conditions. And as stated above, all of those improvements that we're making on the site actually improve the riverfront area functioning on this particular site. Redevelopment project, we do meet the stormwater standards. We do have an infiltration retention system there. We're gonna infiltrate roof runoff. So the building is a little bit bigger than before, so there's a little bit more roof. So that means there's gonna be more roof infiltrated than previously. So we're actually gonna increase the infiltration of what was impervious before into the ground, which is good. The structure's gonna be raised and a new structure's gonna be constructed. It's gonna be slightly larger, but it's no closer to the river than the old site. And it's obviously no further into the buffer zone than the old site. So it's still protective of Gilson Brook and the riverfront area on the site. And we do not exceed the degraded area. There's actually more degraded area than there will be when we're done on the site, because we're decreasing the impervious surface on the site. The rest of them are pretty routine, I think, right? We talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not applicable.
Right, not applicable, okay? And we will monitor the restoration for 2 growing seasons, all the plantings for 2 growing seasons, produce a report.
So it's before the ZBA
And planning.
and planning.
Next week, planning.
So continue them to the 14th. I don't see really anything that's, you know, I think we're gonna be more reactionary than anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, the only thing that I took away from looking at, and see, it was one of the plans, the plan that shows the snow storage. And I know, I read in it that if there was more snow accumulated than could be stored in that area, it'd be removed off-site. But when I look at the plan, I'm wondering, it's 259, is, so a couple of things. is what's gonna, you know, is once we get into, no, 259? Okay, yeah, is, once we get into operation, what is gonna keep that, because there's no fencing, on the back portion of
On
that.
here?
Yeah, what's gonna, two things, what's gonna keep it from getting larger? The fact that there's a parking space in front of it, if it's snowing heavily while the restaurant is operation, how are they gonna get back there? And then I also saw on one of the other plans that you've got the stone trench between the edge of the parking area and the snow, where the snow storage is gonna be, and I'm wondering, snow getting plowed across it, is that gonna, impact the effectiveness of that trench?
Yeah, all good questions, all good
Okay.
questions for the engineer,
Yeah.
and I will
Okay,
respectfully defer and have Damien answer those questions for you.
okay.
I mean, and just something, just to kind of follow up on this, you know, typically where the commission requires, you know, the conservation posts for kind of the areas to not go and disturb beyond. I wonder if there may be an opportunity to not, you know, whereas snow storage is shown kind of to the plain bottom, you know, adding some signage or a guardrail, you know, in the area of the detention basin to, you know, as
Keep it
just
from
a-
becoming a snow storage area.
Yeah, you know,
Yes.
don't plow the snow.
Yeah.
I've seen it in other towns and I thought it
Oh,
was.
yeah, we can put some signage.
Yeah, just, you know, just.
Well, and actually, you know, would there, I suppose there's a need for equipment if part of that is going to be mowed and maintained, then you could get equipment and be able to do that.
Right, yeah, but just, you know,
Right.
don't put the snow there.
Yep.
Was the-
Jim?
I know you mentioned that the septic system is gonna be reused from the current, you described it as oversized, for the burned down building.
Yes.
And you believe it's still oversized for the, expanded building with the second floor. Is that something that the Board of Health takes a look at? Do they have the records for the sizes of all the other tanks and things?
I'm sure they have to take a look
I
at it.
do.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, the Board of Health.
Okay, because a lot of the components, not the field, but the tanks and a lot of the piping are all within the 100-foot, which we never do on a new work, but
We wouldn't allow.
if it's existing, and,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
So, Matt, any further, do we have any comments or questions from members of the audience?
The 14th.
Well, you're,
He's before the planning board and the ZBA, so.
but you're not, when do you go before the planning?
So we're not
Next
closing
week.
anything.
Next week, okay, and the CBA?
We were last week.
Last week. Is there anything that you will be waiting to hear? Well, do we want them to be on the next meeting if they've gotten comments, but maybe have not had a chance to,
Do you want to be on the next meeting on the 14th?
We'd like to be on the next meeting, you know, and then.
Because the next one
and
will be
we'll
the
play it
second
by ear
meeting,
next
the
week
second
with the
meeting.
planning
Okay.
board.
So,
Let's-
okay, so motion to continue the public hearing until the December 14th meeting.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret, yes. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So now we're moving on to the 7:35 PM agenda item for request for work after December 1st. First one up is KMR Real Estate LLC, Colonel Rolls Drive, and good evening.
Good evening, Mark Slater from Allen Engineering, here on behalf of KMR Real Estate. It's a request to do some additional work beyond December 1st. We weren't sure what the schedule for National Grid was gonna be, but I did see them out there today installing some of the poles that needed to be installed. I think there's gonna be a little bit of excavation work within the right-of-way, shoulders, just connecting the poles and putting some of the conduits in the piping or wires in the conduits and all that, so. Maybe a little bit of neatening up and stuff like that, but no real major activity. Just wanted to button up with the power company.
Would the month of December do it for you?
Yeah, if it doesn't, we'll come back and
Yeah.
request it.
Let's do it on a month by month.
Yeah.
I like that.
Any, comments or questions from the audience? Can I have a motion to approve the request for work after December 1st, up through December 31st?
Second.
All All those in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Okay. The
Next.
next is Casey Building LLC, 59 Hildreth Street.
Yes, this is a, just a single-family house. They've got most of the work, the foundation's up, it's framed, septic system's installed, retaining walls in place. They're gonna just do some minor grading and touch up like that, minor stuff. No big excavation, all the extra heavy work is done, but just neatening up as needed.
End of December.
Any,
Will that
Yeah,
work
I
for
might need a
you?
little bit more because there's gonna be some equipment moving stuff around the house. So we wanna have the ability to smooth things out and keep the ground stabilized.
so you may need to be putting down straw, jute mat, or whatever to stabilize surfaces after you've been over them?
Yeah, once they're no longer being worked. And we don't anticipate them being worked, we just anticipate that they might get, muddy up here and some of the,
Depending on the weather.
moving of materials and whatnot.
The erosion controls has been maintained in good working order. Been checking on it, driving by quite regularly.
So when do you want it? I don't know if we'll do it through all of December to April. I mean,
Yeah, I mean.
mid part of January,
Let's
give me
go to, I guess, when it gets really frozen, it's gonna be tough to do anything anyway, so if we go to, say, January 15th and reevaluate.
yeah, let's say January 15th.
And then, later in the spring, we might be wanting to do some more work.
Yeah, and then come see us. I just know when we've given the blanket in the past, sometimes we've run into issues. I feel better, narrowing the amount of time, granting it, and have them come back if they need more.
Okay, so.
Agreed.
Motion to approve request to work from December 1st to January 15th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret, yes. Okay.
Can I make a request that the commission take an item out of order since I'm here? For H.R. Adams Way.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah. Oh, another request to work?
Well, no, that's the one, that's the 334-1775, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a project consisting of a common driveway serving two houses. The only work in the buffer zone that we're looking to do is to excavate for the foundation and pour the foundation and backfill. That way they can continue to work on the house. We're not proposing to do
How
any other
much?
work.
January 15th?
Yeah, I would imagine so. If that's not gonna work, we'll come back.
Then just come back, yeah.
Motion to approve the request to work from December 1st to January 15th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
You're
Have a good
welcome.
night.
Okay, so now request to work after December 1st, Nokia America.
The applicants have requested to install, they've provided their work schedule from this week out through, I think halfway through December. Really, a lot of it is the force main, and it's related to the force
So if
main.
we give it to them till the end of
To
December,
the end
we're
of
good?
December, and, if we
Okay,
need to
let's
redress,
do it.
we can come
Okay, so motion, do I need to put the year on this or can I just say the day of the month?
in.
Okay. So motion to approve the request to work from December 1st to December 31st. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Do we need to sign anything for these?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You're up.
Okay. The next one is George Allen and Sons Construction for Cloverleaf Lane.
Good evening, I'm George Allen, and we're looking for the same kind of extension to do the work. We'd like,
Will December, so like January 15th
that
work for
would
you?
work out perfectly for us, and if the weather gets bad, we'll stop. Yeah, I mean,
And you've been out to look at?
Yep, the erosion controls have been maintained in good
And those should
working
be
order.
sufficient?
Yep, and it's, you know, I think they oversold the work they're doing in the buffer, but I'd rather be they were thorough.
Every week.
We'll give them 6 more weeks.
Okay, motion to approve the request to work from December 1st to January 15th.
Second.
All those in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. So, Silverman, 10 Drawbridge Road?
They were looking to, this was the project where they were looking to remove a couple of trees overhanging the house, redo a deck. They had the tree company lined up for work before Thanksgiving, and on Monday, when I came back into the office, they had rescheduled to this Friday. So if the commission, to do the tree work in accordance with.
End of December gonna work for them?
I really hope so. I think they're planning on doing it Friday.
Okay. Motion to approve the request to do work from December 1st to December 31st at 10 Drawbridge Road.
Second.
All those in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret, yes. Okay. 124 MSW LLC for 124 and 128 Main Street.
Good evening, board members. Joe Cataldo, I'm the manager for the project. We are presently remodeling 124 Main Street, which is the house to the right-hand side, the old former Hicks house. The foundation is excavated for 120, the Hicks house is now known as 128. The new foundation excavation is going to be known as number 124. The area behind the garages, thank you, Matt, that's the area that we would like to reconstruct. However, at the present time, we have an access behind that, which is a asphalt roadway, and we want to leave that in place while we construct the septic system, which is behind the existing home. We would request for 60 days to do that work, and then come back again when we.
Can you use the pointer?
Orange button.
Oh, I'm
The
sorry.
orange button, yeah.
The
So
orange button. Oh,
yeah, 'cause
okay. So, we'd like to do this work in the next 60 days, build a septic system. This work, I would come back at a later date, once we install the foundation, backfill this. These are the garages that go along with the carriage shed, carriage house. This is the driveway that accesses them. This is really screening and berming for the residents that live on Douglas Road. That is in the 200-foot offset area. I believe, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, that's
Yes.
the 100-foot zone right there. We do have erosion controls in place here, and we also do have a second set of erosion controls that are in the former paddock area. That will all remain untouched.
So what you're looking to do right now is do the septics
Yes.
and some foundation work?
Yes. Foundation work is outside of the buffer zone. However, we presently come in to access this. If you recall, there's a bunch of asphalt in the back here. It's been great because we've been able to keep the, no tracking on Main Street because we utilize this roadway. And we will take that roadway out once we complete the septic system here, and then we'll come back to you at a later date and ask for permission to do this grading work.
So the grading work may be a March request or whenever spring gets here.
Yes.
Okay, so right now you're looking for you're going to put in the septic,
Yes,
and then you're going to want to remove the pavement you've been driving over to get to the septic.
that's correct.
end of December or middle of January?
He wanted 60 days, so he's
60?
looking for the end of
So for the
January.
whole-
Yes.
60 days for that first piece of work?
For that first, for this work, yes.
Okay, so.
Provided we don't have a freeze and the Board of Health says we can't build it, but we don't anticipate any problem with building this system. But there is a tremendous amount of earth that we have to move here, so we want to construct that and then start our grading work. And then this piece would be the last piece to do this grading, because once this is done, then that will allow us to take out that asphalt pavement, which is really right in this area here. It runs from here, right along the back here.
So Matt, are you clear on what he's asking to
Yes,
do?
I'm clear on what he's asking
So
to do.
December 1st to January 31st.
For the present time, and then,
Okay. And then as
I
you need
will,
more.
I will come back and, when I spoke to Matt today, I had originally thought that what we were going to do was this, but after I gave it a little more thought, we've got to construct this first before we can, we're basically pinning our way out of a box.
Working backwards. Yeah.
Right, so that's our plan.
Okay, motion to approve the request to work between December 1st and January 31st.
Second.
All those in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel? Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes.
Thank you. Good night.
You too. And last is Choice Incorporated and SCG Development, 60 Littleton Road.
I reached out this today to the project team constructing the Helena Crocker residences. Got a project update from their site superintendent. You know, he does have a little bit of work between, you know, installing the parking lot after the leach field is finished in the next couple of weeks, and then fencing along the top of the retaining wall near us. I would, if the commission is amenable, I would also give them, you know, 60 days to the end of January, and I can follow up with them, and, you know, any work between February 1st and April 1st, you know, they can come back with a supplemental request.
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the request to work between December 1st and January 31st?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yeah.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Okay. So moving on to our 7:40 PM agenda item is continued public hearing for Franklin 31 Bridge Street. Good evening.
Good evening. We have a signed contract. Believe it or not.
Wow.
2.5, 3 years later. Yay! And so they're saying as long as the weather holds reasonable, they hope to have the site survey done in January. So that's when it's planned for.
So, continue to,
I would say continue to the second January meeting and to touch base, you know, figure out where things are.
okay.
And if, you know, continuing is appropriate, because we don't have the, Lee's hasn't prepared the, doesn't have the
Site
plan
survey.
prepared.
Yeah.
Have everything completed for submission, we can continue it on at a,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, so continue to January 25th, 2023?
So moved.
In the discussion on this one, I would have been,
Okay.
based on our last meeting when we didn't have a contract that we were expecting, I was ready to make a decision at that point based on the only fractional information that we were looking for. But now that it does appear there's progress being made, I can support it.
Okay.
The continuation.
Well, the economy seems to be slowing down. I actually was able to get people to return my calls. It was a surprise. If you knew how many hundreds of calls I made.
Silver lining to a cloud.
Huh?
But silver lining.
So, you were looking for a motion?
Take a vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's,
So we had a motion, we had a second?
we did.
Okay. All those in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. So we will.
Thanks,
Thank you. We'll see you on the
January
23rd.
Happy New Year.
Yes, and you also.
Okay. Okay.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Yes, you as well.
Okay, now we have continuation of the public hearing for Cody, 75 Groton Road.
After a conversation with the homeowner's representative, and due to once again, another redesign of the septic system, they were able to accommodate the turn for the driveway on the upgradient side of the property, outside of, away from the rear front area, and they have requested to withdraw the notice of intent application, as what is being proposed is consistent with the RDA, which was issued by, or the negative determination of applicability, which was issued by the commission back in April of this year or so.
That's very good. We don't do anything with it, then we're just gonna let it
So
go.
I would
Okay.
request a vote to accept the withdrawal.
Okay.
But that's-
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Second? Okay. All those in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel? Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. So do we have to close the public hearing as well?
Yes.
Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel? Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Okay, nothing to sign for that? Okay. So,
Discussion items.
moving on to discussion items. Discussion of the MBTA communities as of right multifamily housing and comment to land use management department.
Took a look at the overlay map, and it seems like they have, particular parcels in an area designated.
Yep, and again, this is
Yes,
just
we took a survey.
want to clarify that this is different than 40B, which, allows developers to bypass zoning and portions of the State Wetlands Protection Act, and only the commission's review and regulatory responsibility is under the local bylaw. This isn't preempting any of those, so zoning, other zoning, the Wetlands Protection Act, the local zoning wetlands bylaw, Title V, and local board of health regulations are still in effect. If any of the commissioners do have comments with which they'd like to share, you could develop them. I know the planning board is looking to get their packet wrapped up and ready for their meeting on Monday, but if no commissioners have no comments, we can.
It seemed like most was all
I
well
did an
within
individual survey.
which is where it needed to be.
Marilyn, when you repeat?
I just said I did an individual survey, 'cause they had that as well.
Yeah. So they're not looking for any vote from the commission?
Nope, it was just we wanted to get input if there was, solicited input if there was any from the commission.
Okay. Next discussion is the day agricultural land review and approve the updated MOU.
So they rescheduled the meeting and I wasn't able to go, but I asked them to email me back and they said that they didn't have any, they said that they had so many questions and concerns about it that they are creating a subcommittee.
With the new proposed?
About the fencing.
Just 3 words.
Yeah.
But weren't those words their words?
No, some of them are about the fencing.
Yes.
The different numbers.
Oh, yeah, so that, where we had talked about on different sides.
Not being permanent.
They're creating a little
Okay.
subcommittee to talk about the pros and cons.
Okay.
Okay, great,
Okay.
let us know when they want it back on the agenda, and we will.
Alright, we have another meeting on the 13th.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll hear back from you.
Yes.
Okay. 25 Buckboard Drive enforcement order update.
So this, a letter from, Land Tech Consultants was included, just kind of following up on the actions, inspection report for, and what the, earthwork company did. And I think some of the photos are the most stark. The photo on the top, toe of, beyond the toe of the slope, and they have installed the conservation posts between the toe of the riprap and the pine trees, along the property line. This area has been seeded, but I would be surprised if it germinated at this time. But they did seed it, so next spring, they will be, it will be, I think it's a mix of conservation mix and wildflowers. And, with kind of my site inspection last week, I think this, the enforcement order has been complied with, and, conditions are, satisfactory. Good.
The 55 Graniteville Road enforcement order update?
I received a email from the homeowner's representative late today, and was included in the packet as miscellaneous. The removal of the encroachment has been rectified. Native plantings have been put in. Seed mix also has been put down, and they have some straw to stabilize. Again, the erosion controls are in. The two outstanding items as identified in the letter, items 2 and 3, the conservation posts and the granite bounds. Whereas the granite bounds can only be actually installed by a surveyor, and Norse's surveyor is out of commission with, if the commission would be amenable to granting a request of, 60 days for this to be done, I think they're making all the efforts to hire to find a surveyor to do the work.
Make a motion to that fact.
Okay.
This will also count as our December to April work.
Right, I mean, well, it's an enforcement order, so it's not,
Yeah, it's-
I don't think I'd put that in, Yeah, no.
Okay, so there was so what we're doing is we're extending the date in the enforcement order by 60 days? Or do we need to give them a date fixed?
I mean, I think January 31st would make it easier
Okay.
for me.
Can I have a motion to extend the date in the enforcement order?
So moved.
And
January,
to okay the work.
well, no, because,
Part of the enforcement order, but we're telling, we also have a regulation that says you can't do the work in December to April.
no, that's,
We're telling you.
Well, the
That's
enforcement
only
order
in
kind of
orders
forces them to.
conditions.
So there's an,
So-
yeah, the enforcement order doesn't have that same, because again, we wanted them to get it done, and, so.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
Okay.
All those in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Okay. Request for certificate of compliance, 12 Anna Teresa Way.
This is going to get tabled until the spring when a little bit more growth has, they submitted it prior to me going out there for a site visit, and I think it needs a little bit of.
Okay, so we're gonna hold off.
So, yeah,
Okay.
that's a little-
So that's gonna be held off. Okay, minutes for November 9th, 2022. Peter will have,
I'm good.
The 62.
Yeah, I sent one to Matt.
You said you were gonna bring pictures.
They're in the,
They're in the packet?
they're in the, as miscellaneous.
Okay. And then have 24 Buckboard Drive, the conservation posts have been installed?
25, yes.
okay. Marilyn, did you have something?
I sent it to Matt, that was just a missing word.
Yep,
On
and
page
that was
3.
on the third page, top line.
I think it was page 3.
Yep, page 3, line 1, and it should read, and one requiring erosion controls to be installed.
Installed.
Two.
The word installed was missing.
Okay.
They're good minutes otherwise.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the November 9th, 2022 Conservation Commission meeting as amended?
So moved.
All those in favor, Eric?
Aye.
Marilyn?
Yes.
No?
I think I have to abstain, right?
Oh, yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah.
he wasn't
you said you
there.
abstained. Yeah, Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Okay,
Can I ask one question?
sure.
Matt, can I sign on Friday, or do you need me to come in tomorrow?
Um,
I'm back at work on Friday.
I was hoping to get this out tomorrow, as I'll be out on Friday.
Do you want me to,
But we
you
do
want
have
me to come in the morning?
We have enough signatures, but sure, if you wanna come in at, 9 o'clock.
Does it does it matter if I don't sign it?
Nope.
Okay, then that depends on how I feel. Okay.
Okay, we'll have it at the counter.
Okay, thanks.
Now, you've been sitting here, are there any,
No, I just,
wanna,
well, we're here for the HR items, and I'm gonna decide to stay in.
okay,
Dave was curious.
okay.
But now we're going into an executive session, Dave, so we're gonna have to close this out.
Now he's got his nephew doing it.
Yeah, now you got, I just wanted to say hello to Eric.
Good to see you, Dave.
And I'm Chris Karpinski, I'm new to the 100 Carlisle proposed dog park, and I just wanted to, Matt and I have been emailing over the last few weeks, and it's been very helpful, and I just had attended that ConsCom meeting, so I wanted to join in and see how the flow goes.
Okay.
Happy holidays, Dave. Merry
Happy
Christmas.
So I think we're entering into an executive session, so.
Okay.
One more question before we do.
Sounds great. Have a nice evening.
A lot of times we have kind of a minor celebration at our last meeting of the year, which would be the December
Right.
14th. Are people interested in doing that this year? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we'll just
am.
bring our stuff like we usually do.
Okay, well, I'm gonna do
Okay,
something different.
let's
this
tell
time.
Matt what we're doing so we don't have duplicates.
Okay,
Yep, so email me and we can figure out
Who's
what
doing-
people are
who's
bringing
bringing
stuff.
Okay,
Yep.
I was gonna suggest site again,
And
okay.
here's,
Yep.
well, here's the photos for,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, I mean, they did a good job.
okay.
Thanks,
So, so,
You make the motion.
do I make a motion before, and then we come back and we close?
Yes.
Okay, so, I make a motion.
By roll call.
To enter an executive session to consider the purchase or value of real property as an open session may have a detrimental effect on the town's negotiating position, and reconvene an open session solely for the purpose of adjourning the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so, by roll call vote,
Yep.
Eric,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Ann, and Margaret, yes.
So he has to turn off the.
It's on air.
Yeah.
Yeah.